Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Explorer, the podcast where we travel across Africa through stories, culture, and deep conversations with people shaping how we experience the continent. I'm your host, Ijeoma. So today's episode came together in the most unexpected way. While I was filming at Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra, I noticed someone else doing the same. Camera cuts, asking questions, catching angles. We started chatting, and that's how I met today's guest. Someone you might recognize from his powerful voice in the boxing world, but whose stories goes beyond the ring. Radio Rahim is a pioneering figure in boxing journalism, known for his sharp interviews, honest commentary, and thought-provoking takes. He's covered much events around the world and built a name that boxing fans and professionals alike trust. But today, we're not talking about boxing. Today, Rahim opens up about his first ever trip to Africa, what it meant to him, what he's learned, and how it's changed the perspective as a Black American coming to the continent for the first time. Rahim, welcome to Mindful Explorer.
Well, first, let me thank you for inviting me on. You're right. What an amazing way to meet another fellow journalist on the continent in Accra, nonetheless. I thought I might be the only one there because there were a lot of people that were experiencing the memorial, of course, but it being my first time, I was archiving it and coming up with different pieces of content to express what I was feeling at the moment. And then, of course, you were doing the same from Nigeria, is where you hail. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, this really is a global connection. It's what is important about travel is the people that you encounter that you had no idea you might run upon, and exchanging ideas and having an opportunity then to create something unique. And I believe that's what we are doing here today. And it's because of your initiative, it must be said, that you were tenacious about it. You were following up. You made sure that this happened. And so credit to you for your journalism skills and that work ethic. So I'm very pleased to be on. Also, I love the way you pronounce your name. I believe that might have been one of the first things I had to get right when we met. Ajagba?
No, Ijeoma.
Ijeoma. See, I knew I was gonna like Ijeoma, and it's the flow of how you do it. There's a little bit of song in it, and it's a beautiful name. So Ijeoma, there we go. Yeah. I got it. First time, let's talk about my initial voyage, my maiden voyage, if you will, to the continent, and how we ended up crossing paths at the memorial.
Yes.
I've never been anywhere on the continent my entire life. I had never been anywhere on the continent before, and I really didn't know how I was going to end up there. However, a year or so before, I actually wrote out a whole treatment of a show that would have me traveling to different African nations. And the premise of the show is, as a Black American, very, very few of us know what our African origin is, where our heritage leads. We know we're from the diaspora, but because of the transatlantic slave trade and the lack of documentation across the ocean, we can't trace our roots back to our original nation from which our family hails. And so, I thought this is every Black American should want to know. However, I am not going to prick my finger or give my blood over to the enemy. I shall not take these DNA tests or these genealogy samples and send them off to some stranger to get my DNA. I'm too paranoid for that. I don't know what they're going to be doing with that. So that means I got to do the legwork. I got to figure it out on my own. And so the premise of the show was that I would travel to one African nation at a time and do a vibe check. Like, how else am I going to go? If I like them, they like me, the food is good, I like the music, I get down and they get down with me, well, that might be my home.
Wow. Wow.
And I would have to go to each nation to find this out. And so this was like something you put in the universe. I wrote it. I didn't know how I was going to shoot it. I didn't know where the budget was going to come from. I didn't know what television station might carry it. But it was like, this is a really good idea. I think it's something that I need to be in the forefront of. And then hopefully I can set a trend, and all of my Black American brothers and sisters will find their way to the continent, and we can have a fun like Easter egg hunt for where we just might be from. And so what ultimately ended up bringing me to the continent the first time was not that show. However, when you met me, I was shooting what I would consider content that would be relevant to that premise, right? I am going to continue to kind of do this on my own, as I have a vehicle to Africa now via the boxing. Now, this is not about, the sport of boxing. This is about the culture that boxing provides, and the fact that it's a sport that is all over the world. I like to say it's the one sport that everybody is born knowing how to play. I don't care what baby you run into or where that baby is from, it knows how to ball up its fists and fight if it needs to. And so the fact that Ghana has such a rich boxing community, so many aspiring stars and so many aspiring professional boxers, a community there that I became aware of in the Bukram Gym and Bronx Gym, the Bukram Arena, Legacy Sports Rise, Sharaf Muhammad showed me all of the different elements of the culture I'm so familiar with and the sport that ties these people together. It really is a universal language. And because of Legacy Rise Sports and the boxing fights that they're putting on in the Bukram Arena, I was able to come as the guest of Legacy Rise Sports and view the match and be an honored guest, give a little speech. They show me the country. Went to the memorial. I went to the president's resident. I went to the previous resident of the president, which is now kind of like a walk-through museum where I met all these school kids who were on a field trip. So many rich experiences, so much love, so much welcoming energy from everybody I encountered. It really was the perfect first time to set foot on the continent. I believe the perfect first place to go. As they call it, the gate, I like to call it the door. Because a gate, to me, means something that keeps people out and keeps people in. But the door, you have to put a little effort forward to figure out how to turn the lock and sometimes unlock it. But once you make the initiative to step through, you're welcome into somebody's home. And I think Ghana really is kind of like the portal for people to come to the continent and be welcomed into Africa.
That's a good one, because I was going to ask you, that was such a rich conversation. I was going to ask you why Ghana, because there are about 50 plus countries in Africa, and I'm sure you've never been to Africa. You've never touched the African soil.
I haven't been to 47 of them now. Ghana was the first, but I got, once I got a taste for Africa, I got, the initial, I got to figure out how to get back here. So again, I just put it in my mind that I'm going to do this show. I'm going to, if not with the support of a network initially, I'm just going to go around and make it to every African nation possible and archive my trip. And not a week after I returned from Ghana, I got a call from AC Boxing Academy in Namibia. And they were putting on a show a week after that. And they were like, listen, I need you in Namibia to basically do the same thing you did in Ghana, be our special guest, come on our local television, help us promote this and experience the country, experience our boxing culture here. So I came back to London, and within 7 days, I was back on a plane to a different African nation. That, of course, was Namibia. I spent a week there. AC Boxing was incredibly generous and welcoming, and we had an incredible show. It was so good. I met all the government officials, and the people there, just like in Ghana, were so welcoming. It was different though, like African nations are different. They all have their identities and their cultures and the way they do things. And Namibia, being in the south of Africa, well, obviously not South Africa, being in the south of Africa is different than the west of Africa. And so I experienced a week there. And then on top of that, I got to Ethiopia. And so yes. In the span of a month, I ended up in 3 African nations, whereas maybe 2 weeks before I went to Ghana, I didn't know I was going to get to one African nation. So that is the power of intention. You decide that something is going to happen and it's a part of your spirit, you're going to do it. The world starts to conspire to make it possible for you. And so that, to this point, has been one of the most impactful single months of my life.
Wow, look at how that's the power of intention, just like you have said. Look at how just taking one step opened up more doors of opportunity for you. And in 1 month, you were able to do not just one country, 3 other countries in Africa. That's amazing. I mean, for your first time. That's amazing. So let's talk about your first impressions. What did stepping into Ghana feel like for you? Was there anything unexpected, something that surprised you or even challenged you?
Well, listen, I don't want to sound cliche, but it is the truth. It felt like coming home. It wasn't any adjustment as far as being comfortable. Things are different, but they are not uncomfortable. They seem like something that is inherently natural as an environment for me to be in. The people are very easygoing. They are so polite. They're so generous. They want you to have a good experience. They want you to enjoy your time in the nation. And I really believe that it's a country that is on the rise on all fronts, economically, tourism-wise, industry-wise, how they are managing their resources and their independence is only growing. The strength of government and the voice in Ghana is strong. I see people now appreciating all that Ghana has to offer, and by way of Ghana, the rest of the continent in addition to Ghana. And so what it felt like was I was someplace that was growing as my experience in the world grew with it, right? Like it was the right time to be there. And since I've been there and paid much more attention, of course, to what's going on there now that I have some firsthand experiences, is that rings true. All I've seen from this country, from the time I set foot on the soil, is improvement, expansion, and innovation. And so I'm returning, like I said, in just a week's time. On June 8th, I'll be flying out of London and then landing in Ghana once again, and I'll be there for just over a week. And the reason is because a global network named DAZN is going to come in and show on their platform the first massively global presented boxing match ever on the soil of Accra, Ghana. It'll be from the Bukum Arena. I'll be hosting the show, and I'll be doing the commentary for it. Legacy Rise Sports has partnered with Amir Khan Promotions, which is kind of a full circle moment for me because Amir Khan, if you don't know, is a legendary fighter. I covered his entire career as a journalist. We're great friends. And then, like I said, Legacy Rise Sports, who brought me to Africa and brought me to Ghana the very first time, and Saraf Muhammad was a great friend of mine. They ended up linking up, and then I am now at the forefront of that promotion. That promotion is going out globally, and this is, again, what I imagined when I saw the community in Accra, when I saw all these fighters and their ambition and the conditions that they were training in, but the fact that they had the spirit of warriors and they had the kind of ambition that could create global stars. I said, this place has to be the home of boxing in Africa. It has to be, once again, the door, the place where we can show what this continent can do. And if Ghana becomes the first where spotlight is shown from all over the continent, other nations' best will fight there, and vice versa. And Ghana's best can go to other nations and show what they can do. And I want intercontinental rivalry, but not intercontinental strife. We have to have a unified spirit. Everybody has to encourage other nations to elevate and grow as they elevate and grow together, because as a continent, Africa can be an incredible force in the sport of boxing and, of course, in the world on large.
Okay, that's awesome. So this, I'm sure, is open to everybody, right? Everybody who is interested.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's beautiful. So it's just amazing to see how, most of the time you see Pan-African creators always advising and encouraging people in the diaspora and people who to come back to Africa, to can't find their roots. And it's so amazing to see that you just took that one step, and it's like you have a ripple effect, and they're just rippling. So it's really beautiful to see. What advice would you give to other Black Americans or diasporans considering a trip to Africa?
I would say, remember that it's home. It's not a foreign land that you need to go and feel uncomfortable in assimilating to, or be afraid of, or think it is below you or beneath you or above you. It is you. That is where you're from. That is where really everybody's from. But those of us who have been disconnected from our immediate roots have a special obligation, I believe, to do the work to find out where our extended family exists. And on that continent, that's where your extended family is. Be they blood or just be they heritage. They treat you like family. It will enrich your spirit. It will enrich your soul. They want good for you. You should want good for them. And we can expand our global connection because we're all over the world. There are Black people everywhere. Of course, I'm speaking as a Black person from America because that's where I was born. That's where I was raised. That's where I made my career. And that career is what has ultimately taken me to the continent and made me want to understand the diaspora and have the desire to reconnect with the heritage that I was denied through my lineage of slavery in the annals of North America. So it is important that those on the diaspora understand that their family is in America, and that those in America understand that their family is on the diaspora, and that both the diaspora and American Blacks understand that their larger family is all over the world. There are no countries on this planet, even the whitest of the white, have some Black people there, and that is your family. And then bigger than that, the people who are not Black, guess what? They, at some point, can trace their roots back to Africa as well. They may have to go a little further down the family tree, but somewhere deep down in those roots, they will find that one of those tenants is hailing on the soil of Africa and has grown into whatever their family has become. So it's important to know that that unity exists, that right now, especially in this moment when there's so much division in the world, so much polarizing politics all over the globe, particularly in America, people feeling disconnected even at home in the nation that they're born in, much less trying to reconnect to a nation that they've never been to, that there really is a welcoming, open and armed family and people that will rejoice in your success and would be happy to collaborate with you in business. And there are resources on that continent that are well beyond the wealth that you might imagine as a Black American is available right there at home. So if you're having trouble getting it going in America, or if you're dissatisfied with the way that your life possibilities are in your country, whether they be in the United States or any place else in the world, I would say go home. Just see how they're living there. See what it is for those people who actually have natural resources, who are not needing to go outside of their borders to seek the valuable minerals and oils and diamonds and all the resources that are rich in the soil and in the mines of Africa. We have something to offer as, I'd say, Black Americans in our ingenuity and our understanding of business, understanding of the Western world and how you can make money and turn those resources into valuable businesses that can live well beyond you and the next generation. We all have something to offer each other. We just have to make sure that that communication exists, that that connection is forged.
That's beautiful. Especially the fact that you said we need to move together, like coming together, it brings a better, just like we already mentioned, that ripple effect, that snowball effect. So that's awesome. So, okay, so I know you've got some big things in the works, including an event here in Ghana. Tell us where we can support you or follow your journey.
So where my boxing journalism lives is on Seconds Out on YouTube. You can find so many interviews for so many years. I've been in this sport since I was a teenager, really. And so because of the internet, it never dies. And there is so much content there. If you want to see some of the places I've been and people I've talked to, fights I've covered, different elements of the sport that I've been able to report on. That all exists on the internet. But if you want to stay current and see what I do ringside and as these big boxing matches happen all over the world, I'm reporting on Seconds Out. That's a YouTube channel. Of course, my social media, it's Radio Rahim. So Rahim is Rahim. And you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok or Facebook. But really, if you just put in Radio Rahim Boxing into the Google, you will be overwhelmed with as much Radio Rahim to watch. Battle of the Beasts from Ghana in Accra at Bukram Stadium. Legacy Rise Sports partnering with Amir Khan Promotions. I will be at the forefront of that broadcast hosting the event. It is going to be tremendous. It is the first of a series of major fights coming from the continent of Africa, home right there in Ghana, in Accra, and broadcast globally. This is a movement. This is a culture. This is the moment to get involved and to see it for the first time, because I promise you, you're going to be bragging about having been a part of it from the beginning. As it continues to grow, as it continues to expand, as it continues to elevate, as we work together, America, England, Africa, all of us with the intention of bettering each other and rising this legacy around the world.
Rahim, thank you so much for being on Mindful Explorer today. You are not just telling stories, you're bridging the words. This conversation we just had today was grounded, inspiring, and necessary. To our listeners out there, if this episode sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. We are building a global community of mindful explorers, and you are a part of it. Until next time, stay mindful, stay curious, and never stop exploring.
Thank you for making this happen. It was your tenacity and your effort that made this happen. And this is us now connecting and growing and elevating. We're doing exactly what I am preaching we should all do. It's because we're staying on top of it and staying with that work ethic. We appreciate you. I've seen your work on the internet, and I know that your fans love you. So congratulations on the great work. I know it's not easy. Carry on. I'll be looking forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.